present. Visit xchair.com to find out how you can own an X-Chair for only $20 a month. xchair.com.
Why would Beijing risk a tailspin? You can get an argument and an opinion anywhere these days, even if you don't want it. On Face the Nation, we try to bring information to try to illuminate. We try to go deeper. We'll be right back with a lot more Face the Nation, including a look at the legacy of Dianne Feinstein. Former Defense Secretary Mark Esper will be with us, and we'll talk to the congressional problem solvers. Stay with us.
You and the president speak?
60 Minutes has plenty of questions for Attorney General Merrick Garland.
Have you ever had to tell him, hands off?
His answers tonight on CBS.
I wake up every morning asking, what's happening in the world? Why is this happening? And how do we answer that question?
We've got questions about Medicare plans.
Well, we've got a lot of answers. How can I help?
Well, for starters, do you have a Medicare plan I can actually afford?
How about a plan with a $0 monthly premium?
Well, that's a great start. What other benefits can we get?
Things like dental, vision, and hearing. But let me help you pick the plan that's right for you.
Ooh.
Don't wait. Call 1-800-AETNA for you to get answers to your questions and pick a plan that's right for you. And let's make healthier happen together.
As the world keeps changing, so does COVID-19. That's why this season's COVID-19 shots have been updated. They're one of the best ways to help protect yourself against COVID-19. Learn more and schedule at vaccines.gov.
Announcing the winners of Madison Magazine's Best of Madison Readers Poll for 2023. Congratulations to Roth Cheese for winning bronze for Best Cheese Producer. Roth Cheese, always good. See all the winners on MadisonMagazine.com.
Get the Channel 3000 app, and I'll show you ways you can save time in your commute.
The Channel 3000 app. Get it now. Powered by News 3 Now. Outsmarting AI in the Classroom. Thursday at 10.
Welcome back to Face the Nation. We turn now to the life and the legacy of California Senator Dianne Feinstein, who died late last week.
Women are seen as spear throwers of change. We're not the same thing repeating itself.
Then Senate candidate Dianne Feinstein first appeared on Face the Nation in 1992.
Ms. Feinstein, is gender a plus or a minus for you?
There's so many men back there, and we don't see anything happening.
The Californian was a pioneer, winning her seat in the Year of the Woman. The Senate went from 2 female lawmakers to 6. Feinstein said it was the first time she felt her gender wasn't a negative for voters. When she was elected to the San Francisco Board of Supervisors in 1969, there weren't many women in public office. Feinstein became the first female mayor of the city following the assassination of 2 of her colleagues.
Both Mayor Moscone and Supervisor Harvey Milk have been shot and killed.
She never forgot that experience and championed gun laws, including the 1994 assault weapons ban, when she reached the Senate.
I am quite familiar with firearms. I became mayor as a product of assassination.
I'm aware of that.
I found my assassinated colleague and put a finger through a bullet hole.
Though it expired 10 years later, her passionate campaign continued.
Let me talk about rights for a minute. Does a child have a right to be safe in school? Does a law client, when he goes into a law firm, have a right to believe he's safe? Does a shopper in a mall have a right to believe that she's safe? I think so.
That position put her at odds with conservatives. But she became a deal-making centrist, an increasingly rare breed in Washington, and at times challenged her own party.
This is not what Americans do.
As the first woman to head the powerful Intelligence Committee, she sparred with the CIA director and accused the agency of trying to cover up its past abuse of terror suspects.
We're supposed to be better than that we don't have to torture people.
America, she argued, is big enough to admit when it is wrong and should be confident enough to learn from its mistakes. Being a pioneer wasn't easy, as she told Bob Schieffer in 2009.
Well, we women have had to fight for everything we've gotten in the public arena. We weren't given the right to vote. We had to fight for it.
Today, women make up a quarter of the Senate, following a path she helped to forge. Senator Graham was one of the Republicans, as you saw there in that piece, who worked with Senator Feinstein actually quite closely on the Judiciary Committee.
Loved her. She was great. When I first got to the Senate, somebody told me, now I'll protect their name here, if you want to get anything done, see if you can get Ted Kennedy and or Dianne Feinstein to help you. Because if they got on your bill or your idea, the people in the Democratic caucus would listen. If Ted was the lion, she was the lioness. She could move votes. She knew how to get to yes on controversial things. She was always kind. She was always prepared. She was a defense hawk. She was socially liberal. She was my friend. I miss her. And if you're looking for a role model in politics as a young man or woman, look to her life.
You know, there is also that image of her embracing you after that very contentious hearing. Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett, and she was criticized from within her own party for praising how you conducted yourself. How do you think about that now?
Well, that says more about the current state of affairs than Dianne. Dianne was saying nice things. We had like a 5-second hug, and because she wanted to say something nice about me, they thought she had to be off the committee. That's what's wrong with Dianne. Wasn't the problem. She was the solution. And there are people on my side. It goes both ways. So let's just do this. Let's reflect on a well-lived life. America's better for Dianne Feinstein having served our country. California's better for it. And we lost a lot. We just didn't lose a person. We lost an idea. And I want to my contribution is to try to reinvigorate the idea. It's okay to be tough and kind. It's okay to be liberal or conservative, but it's even more okay to work for America. And that's what she did. We've lost a lot with Dianne. So the rest of us, we're going to have to up our game.
Before I let you go, I want to quickly ask you, she was also an outspoken proponent of abortion access rights.
She was.
Are you going to reintroduce your bill limiting it to 15 weeks of access, which has kind of become a litmus test for a lot of these presidential candidates?
Yeah,
Donald Trump has not signed on. He said he didn't like 15 weeks.
My bill has exceptions for rape, incest, life of the mother. 47 or 50 European nations limit abortions from 12 to 15 weeks. 15 weeks, the baby can suck its thumb and feel pain. I will introduce that bill. I want America to be like the civilized world, not China or North Korea. It's a debate worthy of a great country to have this debate, and we will have it.
Senator Graham, thank you for your time.
You.
We'll be back in a moment.
At Ameriprise Financial, our advice is personalized, based on your goals, whatever they may be.
All that planning has paid off. Looks like you can make this work.
We can make this work. And the feeling of confidence that comes from our advice?
I can make this work.
That seems to be universal.
I can make this work.
I can make this work.
No wonder more than 9 out of 10 clients are likely to recommend us. Because advice worth listening to is advice worth talking about. Ameriprise Financial.
This is a keepsake frame. This is actually a photo from my wedding. I'm Adam Weiss, founder and CEO of Keepsake, the mobile app that makes it easy to have your photos printed, framed, and shipped to your doorstep. You just choose a photo that you love, you can preview it in over 100 frames, and in a couple of days, you're gonna receive your photo in a beautiful, handmade frame. So if you've got a special photo on your phone, install the free Keepsake app. We would love a chance to frame it for you.
To Beth for telling us about Peptiva Nighttime Probiotics.
To Beth. You're welcome, ladies.
You know, the best thing about Peptiva is that I can digest food like a kid again.
No, the best thing is that I get to sleep like a kid again.
Digestion.
Ladies, with Peptiva, you get both.
Peptiva is the first doctor-formulated probiotic that works at night with key ingredients backed by 7 clinical studies. And right now, you can get a complimentary sample by texting GUT to 321321. Peptiva works while you sleep to soothe indigestion, cramping, bloating, even constipation, while promoting digestive health. And it has time-released melatonin to help you get the best sleep of your life.
Okay, girls, what do we have next week?
Tacos.
Wings. Chili.
Peptiva is flying off the shelves at Walmart, but you can only get your complimentary sample by texting GUT to 321321. Text now, and we'll include a box of Peptiva digestive enzymes to help your body digest meals and avoid occasional gas and discomfort. Absolutely free. That's GUT to 321321.
We turn now to the former Secretary of Defense under President Trump and author of A Sacred Oath, Mark Esper. Good to have you back with us today.
Morning, Margaret.
We are having conversations about just how politically difficult basic matters of governance are in Washington. And I wonder what sign you think that sends to our adversaries around the world.
Well, thank you, Margaret, for having me on this morning. First, let me also salute Dianne Feinstein as we mourn her passing. She was a real leader in the Senate. You know, at times she would buck her party. She could reach across the aisle. She was a real leader from my time on Capitol Hill, and we're going to miss her, and we need more people like her. So, again, my condolences and my salute out to her. Look, on your question with regard to what our allies see, Vladimir Putin sits in Russia today, and he looks across the landscape, and he sees the United States of America, which is unwilling to spend what it needs to on defense. It is now pulling back spending for Ukraine. We've seen successive Republican votes where more and more Republicans vote against funding for Ukraine. He sees coups in Africa. They're pushing Western militaries out. He has a pro-sympathetic sympathetic Serbia that's massing troops on the border of Kosovo. We had a vote today in Slovakia, a NATO ally in Central Europe, that just picked a prime minister who is pro-Russian and has promised to cut spending for Ukraine. Look, from his vantage point, the West is fracturing, and he's going to continue to wait out the clock and maybe hope that Donald Trump returns to the presidency.
I wanted to ask you specifically about that because in your book you write extensively about your frustration with getting then-President Trump to support aid to Ukraine, and that was before the full-scale invasion. That was when Russian troops were just in the east of that country. He still, to this day, is not coming out in support of aid to Ukraine. And as we just talked about, Vladimir Putin has said some of the comments he's made make him happy. What does that mean in terms of what we should expect if there is a second Trump presidency?
Well, I suspect that he will do what he says, and that is he will come to office. He will somehow attempt to negotiate a deal between Russia and Ukraine, and that won't fly. There's only one person that can end this conflict in Ukraine, and that's Vladimir Putin, and he's not about to do that anytime soon. So I suspect Trump will quickly move to end funding for Ukraine, and then at some point he's also going to move to withdraw funding for NATO and maybe even pull out of NATO, which would be disastrous for the United States national security. So for all those reasons, that concerns me. And then, of course, we could talk about our allies and partners in Asia as well, who will equally be concerned about these type of events.
So, I mean, you're clear you're not supporting the former president's bid to return to office, but, you know, the governor of Florida, also presidential candidate, has raised his personal objections to, you know, limitless checks as well. So do you like any of the Republican candidates right now?
Well, first, let me say there should not be any blank checks for Ukraine, right? And everything we provide should be audited and accounted for. That's just good government. But look, on the bigger question, look, I'm disappointed in some of my party who are not picking up the mantle of Ronald Reagan. I consider myself a Reagan Republican. Ronald Reagan would definitely support these young fledgling democracies, whether it's Ukraine, in Europe, which is being invaded by its larger, bigger dictatorial neighbor, or Taiwan in Asia that's being intimidated and threatened by China. That's what Ronald Reagan stands for. Look, I think that said, I think there are a few Republicans in the debates right now who I could support, who are better certainly than Trump, and who could beat President Biden. And I think for Republicans, we got to quickly find that person, rally around them, and then bring the party together and run a strong candidate.
You want to give me a name?
Look, I think we've seen some good performances from Chris Christie, Nikki Haley, DeSantis, Tim Scott. I think there are 3 or 4 or 5, but the Republican voters need to decide who that is. It's not Donald Trump, but I think there are a number of good candidates out there.
I mean, you've made clear you see President Trump as a threat to democracy, not just a flawed candidate, a threat to democracy, you've said. Upon his retirement last week, General Mark Milley, an ally of yours during your time in office, appeared to refer to him in his farewell speech as a wannabe dictator. Is that overstating things, a dictatorship?
Well, look, if you go back the week prior, Donald Trump said that Milley, for his behavior, whatever he thought that should be punished, and he talked about execution, which was completely unfair. Mark Milley served this country honorably for 40-plus years in war and peace, moved, dragged his family around 20-plus times.
He deserves our respect and admiration, and not that type of talk. No less coming from the commander-in-chief, the former commander-in-chief. So look, I have a lot of concerns about Donald Trump. I have said that he's a threat to democracy. I think the last year, certainly the last few months of Donald Trump's presidency will look like the first few months of the next one, if that were to occur.
There are a number of stalled military promotions in the Senate, talking about problems with democracy right now. Are you disappointed that even in Congress, Republican leadership hasn't been able to clear that hurdle and get the caucus in line to say that, some of the highest ranking military officers in our country should get the jobs that they've been nominated for?
Yeah, look, I'm concerned on a few levels. Look, first of all, I think Senator Tuberville's serious about his concerns over the policy issues. He's had a chance to bring him up for a vote and declined to do that. And I think it's unfair to hold military nominees, over 300 now, hostage, if you will, over a policy issue for which that's not their responsibility. That's a civilian responsibility. And so my view is that that should not happen. It's happened in the past by both parties. And I've called on recently Senator Schumer to start moving nominations, which he has, because otherwise it looks like both parties are politicizing the military. That's my institutional concern. And then, Margaret, if you step back, you ask yourself, look, the Chinese government doesn't shut down. The Chinese government doesn't do continuing resolutions, and they certainly don't hold up their admirals and generals when they need them as they prepare for potential conflict with the United States. We just look really dysfunctional, and we're harming our own readiness in the process when we look across the international environment.
Mark Esper, thank you for your analysis today. We'll be right back.
Starting tomorrow, we welcome Star Trek icon Patrick Stewart.
It's so good to be here.
Actor Keegan-Michael Key and Kelsey Grammer.
Bridget's coming around again.
Starting tomorrow on CBS Mornings.
Your morning routine just got better.
CBS News, 60 Minutes, tonight on CBS.
Here's to the co-pilot, the person or pet who chooses never to leave our side as long as we're on the open road. The one who doesn't just help us pass the time. They make it worth spending. So for every cruising compadre, early morning DJ, or nighttime navigator, this is for you. Good catch, co-pilot. Wherever you're headed, Marathon is there because we're driven together.
Meeting's in 20. I'm fine, I'll follow the GPS.
Turn left here.
Oh, can't be.
Proceed along the route.
Are you certain?
Turn right.
Are you for imprint certain?
Arrived.
Certainty matters, like the certainty of ordering items from the promotional product professionals at 4imprint.
Arrived.
To show your appreciation to clients, coworkers, and customers, make your destination 4imprint.com.
4imprint, for certain.
Wisconsinites elected Justice Janet Protasiewicz to protect our democracy. Now some extremist Republicans are threatening to unconstitutionally impeach her before she even rules on a case. To overturn an election Wisconsinites already decided, instead of fixing issues voters care about. Radical Republicans want to overturn elections and ignore what really matters. Tell your state legislator to respect Wisconsin voters and oppose this unconstitutional impeachment.
We're joined now by the co-chairs of the Problem Solvers Caucus, Pennsylvania Republican Brian Fitzpatrick and New Jersey Democrat Josh Gottheimer. Good to have you both with us, and we got a lot of problems that you do need to solve. I want to start on what we just learned in the course of this program, which was Speaker McCarthy coming out and seeming to link some movement on the border to his willingness to move a Ukraine funding bill. Then you heard Lindsey Graham say how that would go down, or he wants it to go down in the Senate. He called it a three-legged stool. Would you get on board with what Graham proposed?
I would. I think we have a lot of challenges. I think we need to address all of them. It's actually consistent with the problem solver framework that we introduced last week. It addressed keeping our government open. It addressed Ukraine. It addressed our border. And expiring authorities. We dealt with several of them in the continuing resolution that passed, thankfully, yesterday. But there are remaining items that are unaddressed, the border and Ukraine being two of them.
But the border proposal that has passed, the H.R. 2 that Speaker McCarthy talked about, would not go anywhere in the Democratic Senate.
That's not going anywhere. I mean, but I think to Brian's point, we have to address both, and I think it's a false choice to say we're going to do one or the other.
Right.
Like, clearly, we know that we can make it the next 45 days to support Ukraine and make sure we stand up to Putin and to China and Iran, which is critical to our national security and to our allies. But also, we need to make sure that we deal with and deal with the challenges at the border and border security and live up to our values there. Right.
What Graham laid out, though, was not just funding for Ukraine. It was, I mean, almost a year's worth of funding for Ukraine. Can you get that done in 45 days?
Well, I think we can't. We know that we can get through the next 45 days, but it's a matter of days and weeks, and not months and years in terms of what we have available to make sure that Ukraine has what they need to stand up to Putin in his dictatorial march. So I think we have to make sure that we get some legislation to the floor quickly. I know the speaker is open to that. He signaled that he's open to that. I think that's key. And but we have other challenges, and we can do more than one thing at once.
And I do think the Ukraine funding should be for a longer period of time. It should be for a year. It sends the right message to Ukraine, sends the right message to Russia, and it's perhaps, I think, the best solution inside our chamber to get that done. And the border security language, just so you know, in our framework was a bipartisan bill. It was Kirsten Sinema and Tom Tillis' bill in the Senate, myself, Jared Golden in the House. It's a two-party solution of the border. It represents the intersection of where the two parties agree.
And you think you can get the speaker on board to consider
I'm going to work hard. Yep.
You also heard today the call, a motion to vacate, to oust Speaker McCarthy from leadership. He says he can survive. Can he?
Yes. To me, what's going to be put on the floor is a choice. Are we going to reward bipartisan bills being put on the floor, or are we going to punish them? That is a choice. Substitute out Kevin McCarthy's name for Hakeem Jeffries or anyone else. If the situation were reversed and the squad tried to do the same to Hakeem Jeffries, should he be speaker at some point, I can tell you what I would do on the first and 100th vote. I would vote to table it. Because I don't think that sends the right message. I think what we need to do is encourage bipartisanship, encourage two-party solutions to be brought to the floor. That's what we need. And to do the opposite would really be rewarding this Hatfield versus McCoy brand of politics that's destroying our nation.
Gates says he's going to keep coming, and he can, right? Only one vote needed for a motion to vacate.
And that may require a change in the rules package. I mean, this cannot be the trajectory for the remainder of the Congress.
To stop one person from being able to.
Correct. I mean, that was, so keep in mind.
That was how Speaker McCarthy got to the leadership. That was one of the promises he made.
That was one of the changes that was made, but we were given assurances that was never going to be used, that it was a matter of principle that it remained at one. So you can't have it both ways. And 90% plus of the American public does not want us to be voting on a motion to vacate every day for the rest of the term.
Is he going to get Democrats?
Sounds like Brian was open to Hakeem there. I don't know.
But are Democrats going to join Gates? You know, he needs to get 218 votes.
The way I look at this, you've got a civil war raging in the Republican caucus, and as it has been since the beginning, right? With extremists trying to take out common sense, and they keep doing it time and again. And so I'll leave that to Brian. You know, that's their caucus, and I'm from Jersey. We don't mess with other people's families, and so I'll leave it to them. But I'll tell you what we're very open to from a policy front. We continue to do this, as you saw yesterday, as you saw the debt ceiling. If there's bipartisan ideas brought to the table, we're always going to be at that table negotiating in good faith. That's what the Problem Solvers Caucus does. It's how we got yesterday done, right? If you remember, that's how yesterday happened. You had every Democrat plus one help cover for the 91 Republicans they lost. We all came together for the good of the country to stop a government shutdown and make sure we help people and help families. That's the kind of stuff we should be sitting at a table about negotiating in good faith, and we'll continue to do that.
Republicans have shown they can't govern on their own. Fair?
Well, I've seen the only way these things are getting done is with Democrats, right? And so, in bipartisan governing, and that's good for the country. People want us to put the country over party.
So can you say we won't be back in the same place November 17th talking about a possible government shutdown?
Well, we're 2 out of 435, so we're not in a position to make that prediction. What we can say, like we said last Sunday on a show that Josh and I appeared together, we will do whatever it takes to keep the government open. We made that pledge. We were prepared to take drastic action yesterday had that not passed the floor.
What do you mean?
We will do, well, there are a number of mechanisms where we could force a floor vote on our two-party solution.
Okay.
There are options for us to do it. We were prepared to do it. Thankfully, that's one of many. Thankfully, we didn't have to go there, but we will do what it takes to make sure the lights are on in the United States government, for sure.
We're going to work around, I think the point is we're going to work around the clock these next 45 days. But this cycle of insanity has to stop, and that's what Brian and I believe, right? We need long-term solutions. We can't keep doing this and wasting our time. We have real challenges in the country.
And this includes the debt ceiling as well.
And
We cannot be constantly on the 11th hour of brinksmanship.
That's why we were behind that deal.
It's not even the debt ceiling. The FAA is going to be authorized. You haven't passed into law a defense bill. These are the most basic
the extremists,
things.
you saw how we got here. These ultra-right-wing extremists keep fighting against reasonableness and common sense. They refused to vote for the defense bill, right? Multiple times they kept trying to take it down. And that's the point. That's why you need bipartisan solutions right now in this Congress. It's the only way we're going to be able to govern.
The extremists are the problem in this country. It's the bipartisan moderates that are the solution. That's what we believe in.
And you have a proposal to get all of this done
100%.
in 45 days.
We introduced our bill last Friday.
Yep.
It's the only bipartisan bill. It's equal co-sponsors, Democrat and Republican, represents where the intersection of the United States of America is. And that's what our country wants. They want us to approach government the same way we approach our personal relationships.
But then you heard, I mean, as we were talking about with Senator Graham, I mean, I asked him about Donald Trump. He still won't come out and support Ukraine aid. You have other presidential candidates wavering on
He called for the government to shut down.
So
President Trump.
Yes.
Right.
So if people are governing by popularity polls and not by the mandate that you say you feel you have, how do you solve that? I mean, these
I can tell you the overwhelming majority
of Congress.
I can tell you the overwhelming majority of Americans support the approach that Josh and I take. You approach government the same way you approach your personal relationships. You don't allow the perfect to be the enemy of the good. You take 80% of something rather than 100% of nothing. You come to the center, you build consensus, and you move forward. That's how all of us operate our lives. It's this loud, noisy fringe, the Hatfield versus McCoy saber rattlers, that get all the attention, but that's not where most of the American people are. That's why Josh get attacked from the left and the right every day.
Do you think Speaker McCarthy learned the lesson that you
100%, and I think, yes, I mean, yesterday was Exhibit A, and I hope that's a breaking point.
We have a 5-seat majority. That's all they have. The only way we're going to get stuff done for the country is by us working together. That's the only way, as we're seeing.
All right. Gentlemen, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
We'll be back in a moment.
I got this $1,000 camera for only $41 on DealDash.
DealDash.com. Online auctions since 2009. This PlayStation 5 sold for only 50 cents. This iPad Pro sold for less than $34. And this Nintendo Switch sold for less than $20.
I got this KitchenAid stand mixer for only $56. I got this barbecue smoker for 26 bucks.
And shipping is always free.
Go to DealDash.com right now and see how much you can save.
New Survivor, Wednesday at 8/7 Central on CBS.
Hello, Wisconsin insurance brokers. Are you seeking outstanding dental coverage options? Momentum Insurance is your answer. A locally owned Madison company, we specialize in meeting Wisconsin residents' dental insurance needs. Our comprehensive coverages, competitive commissions, bonus programs, and online portals are what set us apart. Partner with us to elevate your group dental offerings. For details, visit our website at MomentumPlans.com. Momentum Insurance, your partner for outstanding dental coverage.
Hey there. We don't know each other yet, but soon I'm gonna be your new favorite jacket. Because when we're together, your wild side comes out to play. Oh, look at us.
Oh, my turn. I'm not just a bag. I'm your +1, no matter the occasion.
Okay, boots are talking now. I'm how you tell everyone you got this without saying a thing. Fashion is what you buy. Style is what you own.
There's a big birthday celebration in Georgia this weekend for our 39th president. Mark Strassman has the details.
Happy birthday to you. They're celebrating a birthday in Tiny Plains, Georgia.
Grab a cupcake.
Jimmy Carter's birthplace 99 years ago today.
Get down there and hang out as a family, you know, just be a really small private event. He can't party like he used to for his 99th birthday, so.
None of us can.
Right, none of us can, that's exactly right.
I love you, Jimmy Carter. Happy birthday.
Americans celebrate with him.
Amen.
The famous
and happy birthday, President Carter.
and the everyday. A Jimmy Carter peanut gallery of well-wishers. The White House wooden cake, 39 candles for the 39th president. It's some salute, considering most Americans alive today were born after Jimmy Carter left the White House in 1981 and moved back here to Plains.
He's like the father of the town. He's the heart of the town. And we just celebrate him every day.
When Carter entered hospice back in February, his family thought he had days to live. 7 months later, he's earned all this birthday fuss.
He's modest, and but you know, he smiles. He likes the attention.
He's proud of it.
He's very proud of it.
Jimmy and Rosalind Carter, now married 77 years, will celebrate the day as true Southerners with family, fried chicken, and caramel cake, his favorite.
They've gotten to experience this outpouring of support over these last several months that has really been gratifying.
And we also want to wish President Carter a happy birthday from all of us here at Face the Nation. Until next week. For Face the Nation, I'm Margaret Brennan.
You and the president speak. 60 Minutes has plenty of questions for Attorney General Merrick Garland.
Have you ever had to tell him, hands off?
His answers tonight on CBS.
I wake up every morning asking, what's happening in the world? Why is this happening? And how do we answer that question?
When you can recline at the touch of a button on buttery soft leather, available in 2 colors, and charge your devices for only $84 a month for 12 months with special financing. There's only one thing to say.
Oh, my Bob!
Bob's Discount Furniture.
As the world keeps changing, so does COVID-19. That's why this season's COVID-19 shots have been updated. They're one of the best ways to help protect yourself against COVID-19. Learn more and schedule at vaccines.gov.
We've got questions about Medicare plans.
Well, we've got a lot of answers. How can I help?
Well, for starters, do you have a Medicare plan I can actually afford?
How about a plan with a $0 monthly premium?
Well, that's a great start. What other benefits can we get?
Things like dental, vision, and hearing. But let me help you pick the plan that's right for you.
Don't wait. Call 1-800-AETNA for you to get answers to your questions and pick a plan that's right for you. And let's make healthier happen together.
Want to know what the weather is like right now where you live? Download the First Warn Weather app and I'll give you an hour-by-hour forecast. The First Warn Weather app. Get it now.
Powered by News 3 Now. Call for action only on News 3 Now. We now present For the Record.
Welcome to For the Record. I'm Will Keneally. We start this morning with the federal government shutdown, or at least what we think will be a federal government shutdown. Full disclosure, we are pre-taping this on Friday, so we don't know for certain the status of the shutdown on Sunday morning. But throughout the week, all indications have pointed towards heading toward a government shutdown, with Speaker Kevin McCarthy at the center of stalled negotiations between his own House Republicans and Democrats who lead the Senate.
Look, I don't think anybody's stronger. I don't think the country's better if you have a shutdown. And I think the difference here is I've had conversation with Democrat senators, even as early as today, who want to do something on the border.
Speaker McCarthy is letting a small band of very extreme members override the views of everyone else. It's the tail wagging the dog. That's the crux of the entire shutdown message. And if Speaker McCarthy continues on his path, it will have consequences for years to come.
And so that's where we sit with the current shutdown. And joining us now is Wisconsin Senator Tammy Baldwin. And thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
So as it stands, how close are we heading into this weekend to breaking the logjam?
Well, on the Senate side, we have been working in a very bipartisan manner to advance a continuing resolution that would keep the government funded through mid-November, allowing us ample time to pass our appropriations measures funding government. On the House side, they are working on extreme partisan legislation that will have no chance of passing in the United States Senate. And so we're hoping and pleading with Speaker McCarthy to recognize finally that the only way to keep the government open is to take a bipartisan approach. And as soon as he reaches that conclusion and that realization, we will be able to keep the government open. But I want to step back and just note about, a government shutdown would hurt our economy. It would threaten American safety. It would cut off critical support for our troops. It would stop nutrition programs that children and families rely upon. It would hurt small businesses. There will be big impact if Speaker McCarthy is not willing to start working on a bipartisan basis to keep our government open and continue to work on our funding bills.
And so again, we're recording this on a Friday, so we don't know yet when our viewers are going to see this on Sunday. But assuming that we do see a shutdown, do you have a sense of how long we expect that to last?
It will last only as long as it takes for Speaker McCarthy to realize that he cannot proceed with extreme partisan legislation. The Senate requires 60 votes in order to pass a bill. That means Democrats and Republicans must work together. If he sends over partisan legislation that deeply sabotages huge swaths of government by cutting as deeply as 30%, it's not going to see the light of day in the Senate. If Speaker McCarthy takes a moment to see how we have responsibly followed all of the guidelines set down by the deal that was reached this spring to avoid a debt default, if he realizes that we've stuck to that deal where he's walked away from it, he'll be able to pass with broad bipartisan support a measure to keep the government open, and we can proceed with our appropriation bills.
Senator Baldwin, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
We reached out to a Republican member of Wisconsin's congressional delegation, but he was not immediately available. Earlier this week, though, we sat down with former House Speaker Paul Ryan, who was a key figure during the 2013 government shutdown. We started by asking him what's going through Kevin McCarthy's mind right now. We're looking at this budget stalemate right now, essentially. If you were a betting man, as we're looking at this deadline coming up soon, do you have a sense of whether we will eventually reach some kind of deal before?
Yeah, I have a bit of a sense of foreboding on this. I mean, first of all, a government shutdown does nobody any good. It's not a good thing to do. You've got a handful of members who are sort of nihilists from the Freedom Caucus who are sort of pining toward a government shutdown. And I just don't see if there's going to be a way around it. I believe at the end of the day, though, that Speaker McCarthy and the majority of Republicans who voted for the budget agreement that he achieved with President Biden, which I thought was a good budget agreement, I think at the end of the day they're going to honor that agreement, but those bills aren't written yet. And so I think they're probably going to have a government shutdown. I hope they don't. My old counterpart, Mitch McConnell, used to always say, there's no lesson gained from a second kick of a mule. Well, we have so many members who are new to Congress that have never been for a government shutdown. They've never been kicked the first time by the mule. So I think there's a lot of people who, not a lot, there's a handful of members who are pushing us toward a government shutdown, and it's a waste of effort and time. It doesn't bode well for the party that does it, but a lot of these members have not yet learned that lesson, unfortunately.
This kind of seemed reminiscent to me of kind of the early 2010s with kind of the budget sequestration, some of the other debt ceiling issues that we ran up against. I'm kind of curious too, obviously you weren't Speaker at that point, but kind of from a Speaker's perspective, what's going through Speaker McCarthy's head right now?
Well, yeah, I navigated these same things. Actually, when I was budget chair, Patty Murray and I did the budget agreements to get past the sequester in the 2014, 2015, 2013 era. And so what happens, look, we have divided government. This is the reality that a lot of members, no, I shouldn't say a lot of members. This is the reality that a few members do not want to acknowledge. You have divided government. The House is Republican, the Senate is Democrat, the President's a Democrat. That means you have to work together to find a compromise to get through these moments. I think Speaker McCarthy did a really good job with President Biden on the debt limit deal, getting a good compromise, reaching budget totals that they're going to spend to, and now executing it. Well, a small minority of Republicans, against the majority of Republicans, didn't like that, are trying to derail that. And regrettably, I think that will lead to a government shutdown. But at the end of the day, I think the Speaker's going to honor that deal. So yes, I know exactly what Kevin's going through. I've been through the same kinds of moments before. They're frustrating, but we're going to get through this. We're going to get through this. A government shutdown is not like a debt limit default. It's very different. So as far as its effects on the economy, far different, far less acute than, say, a default. And I do believe that they'll get the government funded at the end of the day. But it's going to be a bumpy road between now and then.
We'll hear more from Speaker Ryan later in the show. But when we come back, a panel of retired justices is looking into whether Republicans can impeach the state's newest Supreme Court justice. But we just don't know who they are. We'll sit down with a group suing to get those answers coming up next.
Donate kids' winter coats at Clinky Cleaners during Coats for Kids.
This is Kathy. She's about to see her dentist. She's afraid. Not because of the drill, but because of the bill. A big bill. But Kathy doesn't need to be afraid, and neither do you. Thanks to affordable dental insurance from Physicians Mutual Insurance Company. It's easy to get this coverage. Don't believe me? Call or go online for all the details. You could even have this free information kit. This isn't a discount plan or preventive-only coverage. This is real dental insurance. It helps pay for over 400 procedures. That's a lot. I'm talking cleanings, fillings, crowns, bridges, root canals, even dentures. Bottom line, you'll have help paying for routine care and expensive major work. But if you want deductibles, forget it. There aren't any. No annual maximum either. Plus, you can see any dentist you want. Stop fearing the big bill. Start saving at the dentist. Call now or go to sendinfokit.com.
Physicians Mutual, Physicians Mutual.
Imagine a world with no drama.
I haven't signed Jody's card yet.
At 4imprint, finding the promotional products you need to create a memorable moment is an easy mission. Our expert team will take care of every detail to make your success a certainty. Take the drama out of ordering promotional products at 4imprint.com.
4imprint, for certain.
Have heart failure with unresolved symptoms? It may be time to see the bigger picture. Heart failure and seemingly unrelated symptoms like carpal tunnel syndrome, shortness of breath, and irregular heartbeat could mean something more serious called ATTR-CM, a rare, underdiagnosed disease that worsens over time. Sound like you? Call your cardiologist and ask about ATTR-CM.
Welcome back. This April's state Supreme Court election was a pivotal one, flipping the balance of the court in favor of the liberals for the first time in more than a decade. Now, that's expected to change policy on a variety of issues here in Wisconsin, including abortion, but also the legislative district maps, which largely favor Republicans in the state capital. Now, the justice who won in April called those maps quote-unquote rigged, and Republicans want Justice Janet Protasiewicz to recuse herself because of those comments. And if she doesn't, they're looking to impeach her. Now, the state's powerful Assembly Speaker has hired a panel of 3 retired justices to help make the case for impeachment. The catch? Us and the public, we don't know exactly who they are. We are joined now by Heather Sawyer, the executive director of a watchdog group suing for that information. And thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So just in the last few days here, you have had a lawsuit and a hearing before a Dane County judge. Can you just run through where the status of your lawsuit is right now?
Yes, we had a hearing this morning. We, filed a complaint seeking an immediate order from the court ordering the secret panel to meet in public. As you pointed out, Speaker Voss has threatened to impeach a sitting Supreme Court justice. What's worse, he's proceeding to do so by seeking advice from a group of individuals behind closed doors. Because time is of the essence here, we immediately went into court seeking information about who is involved and requiring the panel to meet in public, which is what Wisconsin law requires. We had a hearing today. We were seeking a kind of temporary restraining order. The court did not enter that order, though not acknowledging that we would likely succeed on the merits in setting a hearing for October. In the interim time, the district attorney will be investigating and, we hope shedding additional light Of note, Justice Prosser, who has publicly admitted to being involved in the work of this group, did join the hearing by telephone. He admitted and acknowledged that the group had met at least once, but he refused to identify who was involved. This only heightens concerns about the secrecy here and makes it clear that the public should learn more and should learn it now while this is ongoing and not later after the panel has concluded its work.
And kind of in that broad philosophical sense, why is it important for the public to have this kind of information?
Well, Wisconsin law is clear, and Wisconsin has a long-standing commitment to making sure the public is informed because of the understanding that democracy depends on an informed electorate. That is clear policy, and it's in the law, and it does require that a government body here, an advisory panel tasked with advising the Assembly Speaker and legislator on potentially proceeding on impeachment of a sitting judge. A matter of incredible public importance, should be meeting in public. The voters should know what's going on. They should have the right to ask questions as needed about what the government is doing in their name.
And kind of across the country, are there any parallels to be drawn here? I think, for example, in Wisconsin, the Legislative Fiscal Bureau here can provide advice to legislators, and that can kind of remain secret. Are there at times any government agencies that work with a certain amount of secrecy?
There are provisions, even in open meetings law, to allow for closed-door sessions for certain particular things, like advice from legal counsel on litigation. Not, though, on a matter of such public imports as to whether or not the legislator is going to move to impeach a sitting justice. We don't think there's any reason why that shouldn't, and under the law, that it must proceed in public.
Now, I want to play a clip now here from Assembly Speaker Robin Vos. He gave an interview with WisPolitics.com on their Capitol Chats podcast.
I didn't want this to be some kind of a public flogging of the people who volunteered to be part of this, which is exactly what's happened. So I think my initial decision was right. Ultimately, I would like to put it out for a public review, but again, it's not really a public document. It's certainly not a public process. There's nothing in statute to do it. It's just people giving me advice.
Is this panel, any kind of panel like this, consistent with Wisconsin's open records law here?
Well, Wisconsin law is pretty clear. A government body is required to meet in public. Advisory panels, such as the speaker has convened here, qualify as government bodies under the law. There doesn't have to be a lot of formality around it. If the law required formality, it would allow public officials to evade having meetings in public. So, the panel that has been tasked, this group of former Supreme Court justices, to review and advise on proceeding to impeachment is acting as a government body. The speaker is certainly entitled to his opinion, but the law is clear in our view. It does require that these meetings occur in public. In a democracy, the government doesn't get to operate in secrecy. Time is of the essence here. That's why we have proceeded as quickly as we have to make sure that the people of Wisconsin know what the government is doing in their name, and they know it in real time, not after the panel has concluded its work and potential impeachment proceedings are moving forward.
And I do want to mention that you are not an unfamiliar face here in Wisconsin. Your group also worked to get open records related to the Gableman investigation of the 2020 election. So just broadly from your work, are you seeing any type of trend across the country of some of these kind of more secret investigations or government workings at all?
Well, yes, it is true that when public officials seek to work behind closed doors, it is sometimes because, the narrative that they may be portraying to the public is in need of questioning. So we have seen, certainly in the aftermath of the 2020 election in particular, a number of claims, false claims as it ended up, of voter fraud, and investigations like the investigation of the Office of Special Counsel in Wisconsin that sought to proceed out of the public view. You know, the work that we did there to expose what was really going on behind closed doors, I think did prove that unfortunately a tremendous amount of Wisconsin taxpayer time and money was spent chasing baseless claims of fraud, that the people conducting that investigation were not open and clear with the public about the lack of any evidence of voter fraud, and that they tried to hide that and fought us every step of the way. So, you know, we are committed to making sure there's, you know, truth and accountability in a democracy, and we do proceed, you know, wherever we see that not happening.
Heather Sawyer with American Oversight, thanks so much for joining us.